In this episode of Pop Culture Weekly, I talk with Joe Keery about his new movie, Marmalade. We hear from J-Lo about her brand new film, This Is Me Now. And I talk with Rotten Tomatoes editor Jacqueline Coley all about black cinema. Let's go!
Welcome to Pop Culture Weekly with Kyle McMahon from iHeartRadio. Your pop culture news, views, reviews, and celebrity interviews on all the movies, TV, music, and pop culture you crave weekly. Here's Kyle McMahon.
Hello and welcome to Pop Culture Weekly with Kyle McMahon. I, of course, am Kyle McMahon, and I thank you for hanging out with me once again for another episode of Pop Culture Weekly. We've got a jam-packed episode today where I talk once again with Joe Keery about his new film, Marmalade, which is really great. We hear from Jennifer Lopez, the one and only J-Lo, about her brand new film on Amazon Prime Video, This Is Me Now. And Jacqueline Coley, Rotten Tomatoes editor, comes back once again. And this time we are celebrating black film, black cinema, talking about, some of the best in black film in celebration of Black History Month. So lots of stuff to get into. Let's dive right into it, okay? So Jennifer Lopez will start out with J-Lo. She has a brand new film out, an album called This Is Me Now. The album is obviously a follow-up to her album This Is Me Then. That came out in 2002 and was kind of based around her first go-round with Ben Affleck, where that entire media circus ensued, and we had Bennifer, that whole media circus, and that's kind of what that album was about. The album, This Is Me Then, spawned the singles I'm Glad, All I Have with LL Cool J, Jenny from the Block, You Belong to Me. It's hard to believe that it's been 12 years since the release of that album, but J-Lo is back with her brand new album. So This Is Me Then kind of continues that story, right? It's been 10 years since the release of her last album, AKA. And This Is Me Now, her 9th studio album, is all about the reunion with Ben Affleck and basically her search for love. It's kind of part of a 3-part project surrounding this. It has This Is Me Now, the album, This Is Me Now, the film, and a upcoming documentary on Amazon Prime called The Greatest Love Story Never Told, which kind of documents, this whole project. She's also going on tour. The tour is 30-plus cities, kicking off in June in Orlando, and it is called This Is Me Now, the tour. Here's what Jennifer Lopez had to say about how the album drove the idea for this movie, which is a musical film. It's the visuals for the album, but it's tied together as a film. It's really inventive. Here's what she had to say, and she's with director Dave Meyers, about how the album drove the idea for This Is Me Now, the film.
There wasn't kind of a time where I was like, oh, I'm going to do this at some point in my life. This was something that was really inspired by the music and a moment in life that I wanted to capture that seemed very kind of magical and even surreal at times that it was happening. And I went in the studio and I made this album. And when it was done, I thought to myself, there's more to this story. There's something bigger I want to do with this music. I just don't want to put out do the normal, put out a video and do this and do that and promo and blah, blah, blah. And it felt like there was a bigger message. And so I called Dave and we sat down and we talked about it. And I played him some of the music and I said, I want to do something. I don't know exactly what I want to do, which is kind of why I think we created something that hadn't really been done. Because it didn't fit into any one, kind of like specific category. Not quite a film, not quite a video, but a story nonetheless, something very original. And we sat there and we talked about it, and I sang it. I sang to Dave. I did all kinds of stuff. And then, Dave really kind of honed in on that's the story. What you just told me is what we should do. And we started putting it down on paper, trying to describe it to people. They didn't really quite get it. Then we had to put down a script for them to kind of understand it. We did that, and then we kind of went from there.
And the film is definitely, This Is Me Now is definitely stylized. It's a fictionalized version of her story. So where did J-Lo draw the line between reality and fiction?
There's not a project that I've ever been involved with, music or movies or anything, that I didn't put a bunch of my life into and a lot of my personal experience. I think as an artist, that's all you really have to draw on, the experiences you have and the personal experience and the experience of other people around you that you've borne witness to. And I think with this one, I really wanted to, It seemed like such an important moment in my life, kind of a turning point in my life, that, and I was at a point in my life where as a person and as an artist, I could really look at all of the things that I was good at and the things that I felt and knew about myself and put them all into this project in a way. So things professionally, but also personally. And so, yes, there's parts of it that feel kind of very autobiographical, and then there's parts of it that are kind of meta. Not quite in a way, not exactly what happened, but also the feeling of that is what happened. So there was different things about it that, were super honest and true. And then there was things that were kind of more for license and kind of taking license and really doing what was best for the entertainment and storytelling of the film, I think. And that mix of it being personal, but also being able to be fantastical, surreal, magical, is what I think made it really, or makes it really kind of moving, entertaining, and at the same time, super real.
There's a ton of celebrity cameos in This Is Me Now. It had to be a challenge coordinating all of these amazing, famous people, right?
That was, yes. It was a challenge with the cameos that we have in the movie. We obviously had quite a few. Some came on the same day, some didn't. We had to make it work. We did whatever we could.
Most of them were shot separate.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was actually probably the hardest scene to edit, because we kept rewriting the script, and and a lot of them were personal friends of Jen's, and so there was a lot of like Jen had to switch out of performance mode and kind of come join me and kind of hold their hands and trying to, because they didn't understand what they were doing, and they were out there wearing funny costumes on a green screen.
Yeah, and they were like, "What am I doing?" And I was like, "Just trust me, it's gonna be fine. I would never make you look crazy, and if it looks crazy, we'll throw it in the garbage. Don't worry about it." But luckily, it turned out well, and a lot of them have seen the film already and are so excited. And I mean, the reaction has been, with everything that we've been through, it's so kind of like satisfying to know that people love it.
And how does this project fit into the larger body of J-Lo work?
It's kind of me, and Ben kind of said this to me. I was like, I don't write, I don't do this. He was like, you do, you write, you direct, you produce, you do all the things, you choreograph, like you do all. Start stepping into that. Start owning that a little bit. Start owning a little bit of who you are. And again, we talk about a little bit about this in some of the behind the scenes footage that we have. And it was just how does it fit in? It ended a chapter and it started a new chapter for me. So it ended kind of this 20-year journey about a lot of questions that I had about love and being myself, a hopeless romantic, and what it means to really enter into a kind of healthier, more self-accepting phase for myself. Now, what will happen from that, I hope will be, and I know will be, even more wonderful things than what I have been so privileged to live up until this point. But again, what the movie shows is that has been struggles and there has been, hard times that nobody knew about, that I kept to myself. And, kind of gaining the confidence to be vulnerable and to admit certain things to the world, I think has only kind of made me more comfortable in my own skin and kind of empowered me in a way to step into this next phase of my life as an artist and as a human being that will be a whole new chapter for me of feeling more free to express myself in a lot of different and, kind of exciting ways.
There you have it from Jennifer Lopez herself and director Dave Meyers. This Is Me Now, a love story. The film is out right now on Amazon Prime Video. This Is Me Now, the album, is out on streaming services everywhere, just like the iHeartRadio app. And of course, The Greatest Love Story Never Told, the documentary, debuts on February 27th on Prime Video. We're going to take a 1-minute break to pay the bills. Hang out with me. Listen to these awesome advertisers that make this show continue to go, along with your support and love. I'll see you in 60. All right. Thanks for hanging with me and supporting our advertisers that help support Pop Culture Weekly. Next up, I talk with Rotten Tomatoes editor Jacqueline Coley. She is amazing. Love her. She's been on the show before. It's always a delight to talk to her. And we are going to discuss black film. Here she is, the one and only Jacqueline Coley. So, Pop Culture Weekly, once again, I am here with the amazing Jacqueline Coley, editor at Rotten Tomatoes and host of the podcast, The Awards Tour podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course. Thank you for coming on again. I appreciate it.
Yeah, glad to be here, especially talking about great moments in Black cinema, because there's tons, right?
There are, and it does not get enough love and attention. And in my opinion, the more that we talk about it, the more that the less that we have to worry about that. Hopefully, that's the goal anyway.
Yeah.
So Rotten Tomatoes actually has a hub, which you are involved with. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so actually at Rotten Tomatoes, we have what we call our heritage and celebration hubs that we put out throughout the year. This is actually the first one of the year. We kick it off with Black History Month, and then we move into Women's Heritage, and then we go on through to API, Native American, Hispanic Heritage, and LGBTQ. It's a great moment to sort of show these visionary and landmark moments in cinema, people whose names have maybe been forgotten in history that we're trying to highlight, films that have been overlooked, as well as what I would consider like the staples and canons of both filmmakers and moments, like films like obviously, Wakanda Forever and Black Panther. That was a movie that a lot of people saw and understood exactly how the Black experience was sort of given that huge Marvel cinematic moment. But then there's like smaller films like Daughters of the Dust and Watermelon Woman, and they all find incredible moments on this hub, and they find incredible moments with the way that everything works out at Rotten Tomatoes on our site, which is really great.
That is really awesome. So tell me about, some of the pieces on there that we can go and check out and read and then explore those films.
Yeah, so I would say as an editor, I'm definitely intricately involved in a ton of these, but I will highlight the one that I actually did starting in 2014, and that is movies that celebrate Black joy, because oftentimes in cinema, and this is actually something that's discussed in a current Best Picture nominee, American Fiction, when they think about Black stories, the only sort of viewpoint we get into them is often through the lens of pain, oppression, and marginalization, which is very real and very true. But there's so many films that are just simply about Black joy or the moments of Black joy. And although not every single film on this list is joyful all the way through, it's not as if they don't have serious moments. They have an incredible, I would say, representation of the films that make us laugh out loud. Films like Girls Trip, 40-Year-Old Version, a new film that was actually nominated for a BAFTA, Rye Lane. And then you also have moments of just like Black excellence with stuff like Beyonce's Homecoming and Renaissance and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and all of these. There's nothing more joyful than thinking of like Miles Morales as Spider-Man leaping across the New York skyline. To me, that is the absolute epitome of what we think of when we think of Black joy.
Absolutely. And, speaking to across Spider-Man, across the Spider-Verse and now a trilogy, or will soon be a trilogy, my godson Aiden is half black, half white. And when Spider-Man when that came out, he was so excited, and I was excited because I'm a Spider-Man fan, and Miles Morales is a huge kind of fan favorite as well. That was very underrepresented in film, especially. He said something to me that really struck me, and it was, he looks like me because Aiden has like his little fro, and and his mom will sometimes do like the ties and all, and he was so excited to see a character that looked like him, this superhero on screen, and it meant so much to him. So I was so excited to go with him to the theater to see it. But it made me really think. It kind of, broke my heart in a lot of ways to think that he is getting excited about this because it's so rare that there's somebody that looks like him on screen.
Yeah.
Especially as a little kid,
And that's what's great about films. We actually just got back from the Oscar luncheon on Monday, or last Monday, where we talked to a lot of the nominees, and they were talking about, we actually spoke to the Spider-Verse guys because they're Oscar nominated again this year, about how everybody gets to have an origin story, and Spider-Verse, like at the heart of its DNA, is celebrating that origin story. And yeah, you can see those videos with Phil Lord and Chris Miller, who are hot on working for their third installment of that franchise, talk about that, which I thought was very powerful.
Yeah, and it speaks to the power of film, and it speaks to, for me, Aiden's story speaks to how important that representation is. I want to see stories of people that look like me, especially, as a kid. I mean, for him to have to be so excited about that in a way is sad, but it also makes me happy that he's so happy that he is finally getting to see that on screen, and it's positive, and it's a superhero, and it's from a Marvel character, and it's Spider-Man of all people. Representation really, really does matter, and I love that about our medium. Is that entertainment can tell those stories.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Another one of the ones that we have on the hub is actually one from a new contributor for us. He's actually a YouTuber, and his name is Chris Tate. And he did this incredible piece about 10 films about Black music that have turned these icons into household names. Now, I will say, I don't know if you've seen the new Netflix documentary, The Greatest Night in Pop, where they had like Lionel Richie, Stevie Wonder, Diana Ross, Ray Charles, and all of them gathered together to sing We Are the World.
Yes.
But that was a seminal moment of Black representation. I mean, this is 1985. They were still fighting to get Black artists consistently shown on MTV at this point. And so having that sort of large scale event with these white Black artists coming together to do something for charity, to do something meaningful, but more importantly, to put them all on equal footing with the superstars of their day, that was a huge one. Also, the new Bob Marley movie, where I think you and I probably know who Bob Marley is, but we have to remember, kids of this certain time frame, he is less, I think, known in the younger generations. And so getting that moment to where these folks can sort of see him and see what he meant to his country, but more importantly, what he meant to the world. And then in another film that is also on my Black Joy piece, and that is Questlove's The Summer of Soul.
It's so good.
Yeah, which speaks of the Harlem Cultural Festival from the 1960s, and that documentary, which breaks down all of the artists, how incredible it was for the community, but more importantly, how rare it was to see all of these Black artists on a single bill in such a large scale event. That one is on there too. And then one of my favorites on here is the Aretha Franklin documentary concert film, Amazing Grace.
Yes.
Yeah, which was vaulted away for decades due to conflicts between Aretha Franklin and the producers, but her estate eventually did release the rights for the film to come out. And it's so powerful because you forget how transcendent Aretha Franklin was as both a pop star. Like the Rolling Stones just like show up in the background of this documentary to be like, well, Aretha's singing and we're going to be there. This is, I think 1972 was when that one came out.
Did you, and this is semi related. Did you see Tina's documentary on Max?
Yeah, that's actually also on the list with Chris. You didn't know, but now you do. That Chris has that one on there too. Tina, such it's incredible because we saw What's Love Got to Do with It. I think a lot of people think they knew Tina Turner's story, but this goes so much more in depth. And I think there's an incredible triple bill to be had where you watch What's Love Got to Do with It, Tina, and then finish it off when they eventually do this, because I hope to God they do, the Tina on Broadway. If you've never seen it, it is absolutely incredible, because I feel like those two are like the melding of everything you see in the doc, in the film, and then when they do it on Broadway, it becomes even more powerful.
Yeah, that Tina's passing really hit me way more than I thought it would. I'm a huge Tina Turner fan. She was one of the first concerts that I ever saw.
Wow.
And my mom had got me into. My mom was into soul and line dancing and disco and all kinds of things. So my mom had actually got me into her. And when she passed, I mean, it was a couple of days that I was sad. It was actually like the first celebrity death that I
Wow.
think really kind of hit me, because she represented so much for me and so many other people. But, this is a woman who went through it,
Yeah.
obviously, and came out as this symbol of strength and power and creativity and all of these amazing things. And let's not forget that her solo career was in her 40s, which is like
Yeah.
unheard of even today to start a solo career, but especially then, and became bigger than she ever had. And she represented so much and represents so much for so many people that it really hit me way harder than I was even would have thought. And then I watched that documentary and I was just sobbing, because it's such a beautiful documentary. It's such a beautiful tribute to her life, but she also wasn't all good times, and she wasn't afraid to discuss that in many instances. I think she got to a point where she was like, all right, enough about asking about Ike, but for at least a long time, she was not afraid to discuss those lows, and that, in my opinion, matters too, because it's our lows, especially if we're able to share them with others, that can help somebody else potentially get out of their low. And she
Mhm.
was that film. Oh my God. Anyway, a tangent, but
No,
Tina is
it's
so
and
good.
it speaks to what I was speaking to before, because she, along with Michael Jackson and a couple of other key artists, were those first artists that sort of broke the color barrier on MTV. I mean,
Yeah.
What's Love Got to Do with It became a huge hit on MTV in 1984, and that was one of the first black I would say artists outside of Michael Jackson that was in heavy rotation.
Mm,
Nobody could deny Michael Jackson, but he was at risk of becoming singular in that environment
right.
without people like Tina Turner, without stuff coming out by folks like Diana Ross in the 80s. That really sort of forced them to say, no, we're going to continue with this. We're going to continue showcasing these artists because they are music. And yeah, no, I absolutely agree about Tina Turner. She really was an inspiration to domestic abuse survivors, but more importantly, just an inspiration as far as music. And so, yeah, she was a huge loss. It's funny though, because she, along with a lot of the films that I mentioned, like Girls Trip and Black Panther and so many others, they're so big. And another feature that we actually have on the hub from a couple years ago is actually about underrated or under the radar gems that you maybe don't know about that are
Mm.
just absolutely incredible. It was written 3 years ago by Valerie Complex.
Oh, I've had her on the show.
Yeah, we
She's
love
awesome.
Valerie. Yeah, she is so great. And just to give you some of the names that are on this one, first of all, we have Jen. That was directed by Nigella Minu. She's actually she got her start directing for Queen Sugar with Ava DuVernay, and
Mm.
now she's gone on to be a part of the new the Kevin Durant show Swagger. She was a writer on that, and it is her story as a Muslim teenage girl sort of trying to do the intersection between her Black identity, her American identity, and her Muslim identity, and sort of navigating the realities of how she is true to all three when all three seem very much in conflict. Absolutely incredible. Shows also a young Kelvin Harrison, who folks
Mm.
will recognize from another underrated film of recent memory, and that's Chevalier.
Yes.
He played a French aristocrat who was also of mixed race. That one is awesome. Also, Night Comes On, which was the first time we got to see Dominic Fishback, who would go on to be in Judas and the Black Messiah, and
Which
so
was
many,
amazing.
which was also so amazing. There's just way too many incredible films on this list that you maybe haven't checked, and that's just the more recent ones. There's also ones from the past, like the television film the autobiography of Miss Jane Pittman, which was huge in the 70s, but not a lot of people realize about it now as sort of like a modern day hit. And then we also
I'm
have
going to. I'm sorry for
no,
my
go
interruption,
ahead.
but
No, go
I've
ahead.
actually never heard of that, so I'm going to be adding that to my letterbox, so I can put it on to find it and watch it.
Yeah, this is sort of that was I think for a lot of people, if you knew Cicely Tyson as the icon that she is, that is probably the role that they most associated to her at her heyday in the 70s and 80s. And then I'm going to bring out two more before I end with this list, because I want you to head on over to Rotten Tomatoes and head out and hit up our Black Heritage Hub so you can see all of these ones. But one of them is by a 19-year-old filmmaker, Phil Youmans. He did a film called Burning Cane. It starred Wendell Pierce, who also won the Tribeca Best Actor Award for his performance in that. And the kid won Tribeca before he was legally able to drink. He couldn't even drink at his own after party, and he already beat out all the filmmakers that day. It talks about race and religion and how, as a Black person, the sort of oppression of religion and how you can lose your faith because sometimes the leaders don't end up being exactly who they pretend to be. It's a very nice double feature with Dune, which is also a film that sort of like warns you against false prophet. But another film that's on here, and sort of a sad one, is Charm City Kings, which is actually a film you can't even see anymore because it was one of those first victims of, we're taking this off the streaming service for a tax write-off. And it told the story of young motorcycle culture and dirt bike culture in urban environments. And it's so sad because now it's just a film that you have to know if you saw it. Maybe you luckily got a screener for it. I still have my screener. I will hold on to it until my dying days. But yeah, this is a film that Angel Manuel Sota's first feature film, and it was a favorite at Sundance, and now it is gone to history. So it just goes to show you how, if we don't celebrate these films, they can disappear.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of Valerie, so she's a huge horror fan. I'm a huge horror fan. And so we whenever I talk to her, we gush over our, fanboy and girling of horror films. Horror films, for me, Black horror films have kind of becoming or are kind of getting, I feel like, their moment finally, and that is opening doors for more Black horror films. Jordan Peele is one of my favorite creatives. He is a genius, and he, for me, and this is as a white boy talking, so please, but for me, I think he has opened so many doors for other Black creatives and he's empowered them. Us, I mean, everything he does, I just think is genius. But he produced the Candyman reboot, and I'm horrible, but the director on that is a
Nia
Black
DaCosta.
woman.
Yeah,
Oh my
Nia DaCosta,
God,
yeah.
she is
so
amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Which made me explore her other work from watching Candyman and loving it so much.
Oh,
And
do you got Little Trees? I think, yeah.
yes. She is. Oh my God. And I love that somebody like Jordan Peele is using his platform to open people's eyes, open the industry's eyes, especially, which I feel like is really the problem, to these other amazing talents that have their own stories that they are telling, and for me, I think horror is such, I did an interview with Elvira. I talk to her every Halloween.
Oh, wow.
And we were talking about like Oscar So White. It's like, for a while it was horror so white, And now we're seeing, I think the horror fandom, horror fans are generally people who they don't care what color the filmmaker is or what stories they're telling, as long as they're telling interesting stories. And so horror for me is an interesting place that I feel like Black creatives have been able to go to tell these stories that look at Jordan Peele. Now he's like a major, incredible, huge, one of the top, creatives in Hollywood. And I love that horror allows that in so many ways, because as sucky as it is to say, it's a way into the bigger system,
Mm.
and there's so many amazing films. There's a film, did I write it down? There's a horror film, The Black Girl and the Monster or something.
Oh yeah, the black girl and her angry monster. The
Yeah,
angry black girl and her monster.
yes, like
Uh-huh.
that is so that is telling there's no doubt that is a Black creative telling a Black story. And me as a horror fan, I'm just like, this is a great horror movie. Oh, and by the way, you know what I mean?
Well, no, I think that's the key is like
It's important.
It's specific, but it's still universal. And I think
Exactly.
that's the thing that horror is sort of like romance and some of these other genres that have very specific sort of perimeters. You can get very niche, like Get Out. Get Out is a very Black story about very particular aspects of Black identity and navigating the world of whiteness in the case of Chris in that moment. But it's still completely universal. That's why it was nominated for Best Picture. That's why it took home Academy Awards, is because even though it was talking to a very specific group of people, or maybe was coming through the viewpoint of a very specific group of people, it still was something that was universal, because within storytelling, if you're doing it right, it can be that way. And we do actually also have a Black horror guide where we sort of break down a few of those. And a recent edition that I think is really key for that one is actually The Blackening, which was out last year. It was written by Dwayne Perkins and produced by Will Packer. Produced and directed by Will Packer. And that is another example of the other aspect of Black horror, is that Black horror comedies, because Get Out is also a Black horror comedy. That's a really big part of it, is the laughing until you cry. And I'm not just talking on the parody side. I mean, we're speaking to films like The Blackening, movies like Get Out, but even something like Candyman. Like, there's very comedic moments even in the original Candyman. There's funny sort of things that you sort of navigate within these features, which I think is really important. And Jordan is not just leaving it with Black artists; he's all marginal artists. His production company Monkey Paw is also producing Dev Patel's first directorial feature, and so I think, again, it's definitely, this moment is about Black cinema, but I think it's about all marginalized voices getting their chance to sort of speak to it.
I love that. I love that. What other interesting, I mean, obviously I want everybody to go to the hub and check them out, but what are some other like top of mind lists that speak to you currently?
Yeah, I would say there's also our TV guide for anybody who's like, okay, I've seen some of this other stuff, but what's coming out right now? This will give you exactly where every streamer, every studio, if they have content right now this month that is particularly geared towards the Black voices or celebrating Black voices, our hub will tell you exactly where to find all of it. So you'll be able to click on there and see exactly where Disney Plus has all of their Black History Month stories. And then there's new things or things that are coming back. Like, for example, we have Lawman Bass Reeves. It's about to come back with its next season, and it has the premiere date for that. Also, Genius, which is the Nat Geo feature that's on Disney Plus. The next iteration, which is about Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, that one is going to be there. These are men that only met once, but were very integral in each other's lives in the civil rights movement. We also have the new season of, like I said, Lawman Bass Reeves. We also have the new season of Abbott Elementary, which obviously is a huge and hilarious feature, but they came right back for Black History Month, and new shows like the Vince Staples Show, which is going to be on Netflix. And so the Vince Staples, the musical artist, is sort of stepping into the small screen with his very first series. And then also, like, again, things that have been celebrated for multiple years, like Queen Latifah's Equalizer. After the Hollywood writer's strike, she's finally coming back with that season 4, which will be on CBS. And you can find information about all of those, what days they premiere, as well as what folks are saying about them on our TV guide for 2024. And it has all of those on a calendar.
Thank you. That's an awesome feature. It makes it an easy kind of one-stop shop to go and see what you want to see and plan your viewing.
Yeah.
So what can we expect from you next? You have so much going on constantly.
I mean, mainly, I would say after you go ahead and hit the Black Heritage Hub, head on over to the Awards Tour Hub. That's where I spend most of my time this time of year, updating exactly who's winning throughout the season. As well as, like I said, we have our Awards Tour podcast where I sort of speak to various filmmakers. We have great interviews with Sterling K. Brown, who was nominated this year, as well as Danielle Brooks, who was nominated for The Color Purple. And I believe our next interview, I'm gonna like tease this one. There's a very big film coming out that has a Black female actress as its lead, and maybe we're talking to its director in the next coming weeks. I'll leave you with that tease. How about that?
Okay. And where can we find all of this stuff?
Yeah, just head on over to Rotten Tomatoes. Like I said, the Black Heritage Hub is right on our homepage, as well as the awards tour is the one right underneath that. And if not, you can just find me on every single social channel at that Jacqueline, and I'm sure I've posted something.
And the awards tour podcast you can get on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, wherever, right?
Everywhere that podcasts are available, you can find it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for speaking with me. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. Please come back soon and we'll talk whatever it is that you want to talk about.
Thank you. It was so great to be here again. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. I love Jacqueline. I always enjoy talking with her. She is an encyclopedia of film knowledge, and I love that she joined us to discuss Black film, Black excellence, Black cinema on Pop Culture Weekly today in celebration of Black History Month. Of course, as always, in the show notes, we got a ton of links for you to get to everywhere that you're interested in based on our conversation. All right. We're going to take a quick break, 60 seconds to pay the bills. See you in 60. All right. Thank you for hanging with me. Thanks for supporting our advertisers who keep this show running, keep me bringing great content to you with the people that you love in pop culture, movies, music, TV, streaming, all of it. All right. Next up, I talk once again with Joe Keery. He is amazing. You know him from Stranger Things and Free Guy and so many other amazing projects. This film that we're talking about today, Marmalade, is really, really great. It's like a genre-bending, line-blurring film that has this aesthetic that I absolutely love. It's directed by Keir O'Donnell, who is an actor himself, and so this is obviously a passion project for him, and the passion comes through, not just in the film itself, but from all of the, incredible actors, all the work on this film. So Joe plays Baron. So basically the film revolves around Baron, who in jail strikes up a friendship with a new cellmate who has a history of, breaking out of prison. So as they're hatching a plan to escape, Baron discusses how he met the love of his life and how they had to come up with a scheme to rob a bank that put him in this situation in the first place. It's really, really great. I highly recommend that you watch Marmalade. And here is my interview with Joe Keery. So, first of all, Joe, welcome back to Pop Culture Weekly. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me about Marmalade.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Of course. So, first of all, this film, I absolutely love it. It reminds me of like one of those great 80s, 90s films where, it kind of mixes genres and it's got all kinds of interesting things going on that makes it's not a romantic comedy. It's not a drama. It's not a thriller by themselves. It's all kind of mixed. Is that what drew it to you? And if not, what did draw you to the role of Baron?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Kind of the genre bending element that a lot of the early Coen Brothers movies, Usual Suspects, and it kind of has this sort of whimsical element, fairy tale element that I thought was sort of an interesting angle, as well as just being kind of connected to this character. I sort of think generally your first instinct about things is kind of dead on, and I kind of felt like I sort of understood the character. And then also I think something that's kind of lacking in cinema these days, or it's movies that are sort of surprising in a way. And the audience is so smart these days that generally they're 3 steps ahead of the plot before it happens, and then there's kind of no element of surprise. So I kind of liked subverting expectations a little bit and hope that this one can kind of sneak up on people and also just sort of be a little bit of levity and a little bit of joy and a bright spot for people.
Yeah, and I think for me anyway, it accomplished that. This film, it's interesting because there's kind of, it's centered, in my opinion, around these three kind of characters, and the talent behind it, including yourself, is really makes it. You know what I mean? What is it like working with talent like that on a film like this, especially?
It's so important to have people who can just nail things, I guess. When you're working on an indie movie that's so small, really almost a micro budget, and shot so quickly. Really, it was 4 weeks for this whole movie, 20 days. So it's really important to, I guess, just sort of have a deep understanding of the character and be able to show up on set and just nail it. And with Aldous Camilla, it was just like boom, bam. So I just felt so lucky and taken care of. And then also with Keery as well, the director of the movie, this was really his kind of baby, this project. So the movie is inside of him. He understands each character pretty obviously intimately, and then he just has a dream for how it is shot that's very specific. And that's what you want and hope for when you work with other people and work with directors, especially. So he was amazing. He was a joy.
And it does seem like, and obviously is, a very personal project for him. He's obviously been an actor for a long time, and this is his first directorial debut. Do you get any kind of nervousness when it's something like that you're working with somebody who it's obviously so personal to in so many ways? Or are you able to separate that?
Yeah, well, I mean, at a certain point you kind of it goes from this thing that, that was on the page, and then all of a sudden, you obviously want to take everything into, everything that's on the page is kind of, that's sort of the Bible, but then also you have to make it your own. And so there is a little bit of nerves involved with that, but luckily, Keery's a really collaborative guy, and as an actor, has a pretty deep understanding that, it is a collaboration between the director and the actor, and that's what makes a good character. So, and for me, that I prefer that. I like to kind of create the character with the director, because that's sort of the fun of it. And when you have the kind of shorthand about how the character would react in a situation, how to interpret certain things, it's nice to have two perspectives rather than just one. So nerves, yes, but also that's the fun of it.
Okay. And for you, and I'm trying to be as spoiler free as possible, but for me, the film is very thought provoking in many ways. I know my mom passed away a couple of years ago from pancreatic cancer, but it got me thinking about.
I'm sorry.
Thank you very much. It got me thinking about, what would you do for love, both as, a parent, a girlfriend, or a partner, or whatever. And to me, that's something that is not always present in a lot of projects today, where you really, after you watch the film, it stayed on my mind, and thinking what would I do, and when someone is in a dire situation, what are the lengths that you would go to, and that sort of thing. And I feel like Marmalade does a really good job of giving that to the audience, where it's something to think about,
Yeah, definitely. I loved that part of it. Without spoiling anything, I also love that about the conclusion of the film, that it's this candy kind of colored kind of cat and mouse caper movie that you're like, what is this movie? And then it sort of lands with actually something to say. I really like that as well. So that's amazing, actually, that you felt that way. That's really cool to hear, because it's kind of just coming out. I haven't really talked to too many people about the movie, and to hear you say that is really cool.
Thank you. And that's truly how I feel. And, you guys have done a great job with it. Just feel like this is one of those films where everything has fallen into place, from the aesthetic, from, cinematography to the script to the actors to directing, obviously the writing. It's just one of those films that really, sneaks up on you. I didn't really know what I was going into before I watched it. And then as I watched it, I'm like, this is like one of those films that sticks, sticks more than, we watch so many projects. I'm sure you do too. And there's so much content coming out, and oftentimes it's easy to forget the last few things you just watched because you're on to the next one. And it says something, at least in my opinion, when one of those projects sticks with you after you've watched it,
Definitely. I feel a very similar way. I think a lot of people feel the kind of the burnout from just, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff to watch. So I guess that's what sort of drew me in to the idea of this, is that it felt really different and it felt kind of risky. But that's the fun of it. The risk, I guess, is that, you sort of end up feeling like silly, or, you kind of like, I don't know. But I think that's also where really great things can kind of happen and really exciting work can be done. So yeah, I really appreciate you saying that. That's very cool that it has stuck with you. And I'm really excited to see what other people think when they watch the movie and kind of, see sort of what happens with it. It's cool. It's it's sort of starting to take on a life of its own after kind of being this thing that we worked on, and now it's sort of out there for everyone to enjoy.
Yeah, I can't wait to talk to people about it. Finally, for you, you've done and do big projects like Stranger Things and the film with Ryan Reynolds.
Oh yeah, of course, Free Guy. Yeah.
Free Guy. Thank you. I was going to say Free Man. That
no, I'll get it.
Which I talked to you. You and I talked for that film, and then you're able to do a small project like this. What for you does that kind of fulfill all of your creative needs, if you will, where you can go and do this big budget project, and then you can go and do a smaller sort of art house indie film that can take risks and that sort of thing. Does it fulfill different needs for you as an actor?
Definitely. Every project has its own challenges, its own benefits, and every time you think you understand what it is like to work on set or make a film, it all sort of changes, because the beautiful thing is that it's a rotating cast of characters. It's like a circus. You like go to this place and you put on this show and then it's over. So, working on different, a big budget thing versus a tiny thing, there are major differences, but I think at the core, it really is the same. But I feel really lucky also in my life to just have, a lot of outlets and a lot of interest in a lot of different things. So it's, I guess that sort of answers the question.
Yeah, absolutely.
But obviously feel very fortunate to be able to, do any of these things. So yeah, it's very exciting.
Well, and we love watching you, Joe. Thank you so much for speaking with me.
Thank you.
I can't wait for everybody to see Marmalade. It's such a great film. And thank you. Come back again for the next project.
Thank you so much. I absolutely will. Thanks, Kyle.
Thanks, man. Joe Keery. Love Joe. Love Marmalade. And I'm so thankful for him to come back on the show and discuss his latest project, Marmalade. It really, really is worth your time. Besides Joe, it also stars Camilla Morone and Aldous Hodge, who are both incredible in their own right. You can watch Marmalade right now on Apple TV, Prime Video, wherever you rent or purchase your films. It also has a limited release in theaters, which I highly recommend. If it is playing near you, you go and see it in a theater. It's really a great film. All right. That's all for this episode of Pop Culture Weekly. Thank you for hanging out with me. I really appreciate you. Keep on listening. Keep on reviewing the show on Apple Podcasts or wherever, sharing it with friends that you think would enjoy it, especially the conversations that we had today. I appreciate you. Hit me up on all the socials. I love you.
We out. Thank you for listening to Pop Culture Weekly. Hear all the latest at popcultureweekly.com.
Used to have a little, but I got a lot. I'm just Kylie from the block. Don't be fooled by the pops that I got. I'm just Kylie from the block. Used to have a little, now I have a lot. I'm still Kylie from the block. Meh.